And the winner is December 3rd, 1800 was Election Day in the United States of America. 4 candidates were running for president, but when the votes were counted, there was no winner. It took more than 2 months and 36 votes by the House of Representatives to declare one. In the end, the winner was Thomas Jefferson. As President of the United States, Jefferson would help the young country thrive. Yet, long before he was elected, Jefferson had already served his country. He was one of its founders who led the American colonies to independence from Great Britain. He wrote the Declaration of Independence, one of the most important documents in American history. Jefferson's thoughts and words would shape the United States forever. A lover of words. Thomas Jefferson was born on April 13, 1743, at Shadwell, his family's plantation in Virginia. He was the third of 6 children born to Jane and Peter Jefferson. At the time, Virginia was one of the 13 colonies in North America under the rule of Great Britain. Peter Jefferson was a member of the House of Burgesses. This was the first assembly in North America elected to make local laws. He was also a map maker and a land surveyor. Peter owned a large amount of land, which he used enslaved people to farm. Jefferson and enslaved people. Plantation owners used enslaved people to work their land. Jefferson's father enslaved 40 people. Jefferson inherited them when his father died. He eventually would enslave several hundred. Jefferson believed that slavery was wrong, but he never freed them. Even though Jefferson contributed to some of the nation's founding documents and ideals around freedom and justice, he did not believe black people were equal to white people. Slavery was abolished in the United States in 1865, 39 years after Jefferson died. The Jefferson home included a library with 29 books. That was a large number for a personal library at the time. By Thomas's 6th birthday, he had read them all. Thomas was a shy, red-headed boy who loved the outdoors and music, but he loved to read more than anything else. He was always reading and thinking, even before he started school at age 9. He also liked to write down his thoughts rather than speak them. In 1757, when Thomas was 14, his father died. Thomas was heartbroken, but he continued his schooling. 3 years later, he went to William and Mary College. After that, he studied law. A taxing time. In 1767, Jefferson began to practice law. The next year, he became a member of the Virginia House of Burgesses. Jefferson did an excellent job of thinking through and preparing his law cases. He was not a great speaker, though. In the House of Burgesses, Jefferson was very quiet, but he became known for writing important documents. Jefferson's career began at a time when tensions were growing between Great Britain and her colonies. British lawmakers were imposing many rules on the colonies and making the colonists pay high taxes. The colonists were angry that people who lived so far away were making decisions about their lives. The colonists wanted to have representatives in the British government. They believed there should be no taxation without representation. The British government refused to give the colonists a voice in making laws. The colonists held many protests, and Great Britain sent troops to the colonies to keep the peace. Jefferson was among those who thought the British government was being unfair. He thought government had a responsibility to take care of and help its citizens. In 1769, Jefferson voted to stop buying British goods as a way to protest the British government's high taxes. Great Britain, however, continued to impose rules and high taxes on the colonists. The colonists grew so frustrated that they decided to meet to discuss the situation. Monticello, the Jefferson family home. In 1769, Jefferson started building his dream home on a mountaintop in Virginia. He designed the home himself and called it Monticello. On New Year's Day in 1772, Jefferson married Martha Skelton and brought her to live at Monticello, which was still being built. The house was a labor of love for Jefferson. He kept redesigning it and adding to it for 40 years. In 1774, representatives from almost every colony went to Philadelphia to take part in the First Continental Congress. The Congress declared that the colonies were loyal to Great Britain. At the same time, they argued that Parliament should not be allowed to tax them. Great Britain did not stop the taxes, and tensions continued to grow. On April 19, 1775, armed citizens of Massachusetts fought the British Army. This was the start of the Revolutionary War. A Second Continental Congress was called. Writings that shaped the United States. Thomas Jefferson attended the Second Continental Congress as the representative from Virginia. At the Congress, Jefferson met leading thinkers from the other colonies, including John Adams from Boston. The two became close friends. The Congress decided that the colonies had to declare their independence from Great Britain. A brilliantly written document was needed to inspire the colonists. Adams knew that Jefferson was an exceptional writer and insisted he write the document. Jefferson went to work in his small, rented room in Philadelphia. Within 17 days, he had a draft of the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence. Many of Jefferson's own beliefs went into the Declaration of Independence. One of the parts most quoted today reads, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." The Second Continental Congress approved the Declaration on July 4, 1776. It was America's Independence Day. The Revolutionary War, however, would not end until 1783. Jefferson returned to Virginia after the Declaration of Independence was approved. He was elected to Virginia's House of Delegates, formerly the House of Burgesses, where he served until 1779. He ended the unfair law in which the oldest son received all of a family's wealth when his father died. He argued that all white males had the right to an education, no matter their background, and wrote laws setting up free public schools. He also wrote the Statute of Virginia for religious freedom. Jefferson put many of his personal beliefs about religion into the statute. He believed that people should be free to practice whatever religion they wanted. He also believed in a separation of church and state. According to Jefferson, religion and government were two very separate things. He did not think either one should have power over the other. These were fairly new ideas at the time. First, second, third. In 1789, George Washington was elected the first U.S. president. Jefferson became the country's first Secretary of State. In 1797, his friend John Adams became the second president, and Jefferson became the vice president. However, the two argued about the nature of government. Adams believed that a strong central government was important. Jefferson believed that the individual states should have the strongest powers. With a strong central government, the president and Congress have the most power. A strong central government felt too much like having a king and parliament, Jefferson argued. Wasn't that what the colonists had fought against? Jefferson and Adams wound up not speaking to each other for more than 10 years. In 1801, Jefferson became America's third president. He served 2 terms for a total of 8 years. During that time, he cut the country's debt in half. He also doubled the country's size by making the Louisiana Purchase from France in 1803. It was the first time in history that so much land had been exchanged by 2 countries without war. The Louisiana Purchase extended the western border of the United States all the way to the Rocky Mountains, across land occupied by nations of native peoples. The Louisiana Purchase helped the young United States become an important world power. The Library of Congress. During the War of 1812, the British Army set fire to the Library of Congress, the country's library in Washington, D.C. The collection of about 3,000 books was destroyed. In 1815, Thomas Jefferson, the man who loved books, sold his own collection to the library. With Jefferson's 6,487 books, the library was able to reopen. Today, the library has more than 35 million books. Returning to his roots. After his second term as president, Jefferson returned to Virginia. He spent his days reading, writing, and tending to his fruit and vegetable gardens. He also helped start Virginia's first public university. Thomas Jefferson died on July 4, 1826. John Adams died the same day. It was the United States' 50th birthday. Today, Jefferson is remembered for his role as one of the founders of U.S. democracy. His words and actions helped create and define the United States.